Hi, this is Stephen Michael, and this is another episode of the Aspiecast. This is the fourth attempt of another episode. I think the first of my 4 attempts was last November. And what happens is, as usual, things don't quite work out, and I realize after listening to it that I have to do it again, and then doing it again assumes that I have enough motivation and energy and brain power left from regular work or regular time after work that I can do it. And for whatever reason, my work just gets more and more intense, and that's okay. That's the only thing I know. And it keeps me from being alone because it gives me something to think about. I think one of the big deals, and I may have mentioned it before, is I'm scared to be alone quite a bit. And so I do a lot of stuff to keep my mind off of things. Let me back up. I do a lot of stuff to avoid being alone because I don't want to think about the fact that I'm alone. And anytime I'm alone, I start thinking about the fact that I'm alone. And then I start maybe going and realizing and remembering why. And so I want to mention that, this sort of relates to things that an individual either does or has to do or naturally does in order to have friends, be socially connected. I feel like it's about selling yourself. I hate to say it. And I think some people maybe have a natural tendency to selling themselves. And it sounds kind of phony when I say that. But I guess what I'm finding over the many years is that anything you're doing, you're sort of, you're promoting who you are and, hopefully making people feel good when they are in your presence. And that is a very crucial aspect of selling anything, including yourself. Anyway, it's interesting. It turns out that a lot of salespeople get a lot of advice on selling through books. One of them I'm going to play a snippet or two from here. It's called Millionaire Selling Secrets by Brett Bacon. And I've got a link to it on Amazon, bit.ly/Aspiecast2, numeral 2. The full title, Millionaire Selling Secrets, How to Become a Millionaire Now by Using These 10 Simple, Fast, Easy, Proven Secrets of Persuasion. So that's a book that, is for people that are aspiring salespeople that, they dream about being a millionaire. I don't necessarily dream about being a millionaire, although I would love to be one. But I read this book partly because I'm not so good at selling, and I need to do that just as a business owner. They say every business owner has to also be a salesperson. But when I listen to these books, and I say listen because I hate reading, my mind goes haywire and thinks about all these other things. So when I listen to these books, and that's great because of audible.com, not promoting it, I just love it. What happens is I listen to books for work, success, hope, and then I realize it's like so freaking relevant to my existence as an Aspie. And it's kind of encouraging that people had to write books about this for non-Aspies. So non-Aspies, salespeople, NTs, whatever, everybody needs to know the importance of selling and maybe how to do it. And one of the things that sort of goes along with that is influence. And to sell yourself, you want to sort of have connectivity and influence, and I would phrase that as, you are taken, your words are taken as being useful or important by one or more people. I'm just making that up as a term here for influence. And in my world, digital marketing type stuff, folks may have heard the term influencer. Everybody that has a goal of getting more attention on the internet wants to hook up with influencers and or be influential. So anyway, I'm going to play a snippet from the book real quick here. This is very edited, and it just as another phrase about, how selling is for anything and everything. And then also just to, how it has to do with influence. And then influence, theoretically, if you do it right, can lead to prosperity.
Whether you are aware of it or not, you are selling yourself from the moment you wake up in the morning to the moment you go to bed, each and every day. There is no time off, no vacation days, no break from selling yourself. Selling is about persuading, and you must be persuasive to be successful, no matter what job you have, unless you live on a deserted island.
Okay, so it mentioned influence and wealth in that snippet, and again, I'm thinking more about influence, and I'm thinking more about it as being taken to be important or useful or valuable or something, some quality that makes people want to be around you. And I think that the opposite of that can be the case, at least for me, is I've made people turned off, and people have said that to me throughout the years. I turn people off. Or like another guy said, I'm not endearing myself to other people through what I say, through inappropriateness, and I think also through prosody, and I'll mention that in a minute. The goal in my entire social existence has always been to connect and to ideally have, what I would call the food of life, interacting with other people. I think that's as important as, learning and taking information and food and whatever else. So the thing is, I've turned people off not just by saying inappropriate things, but I think also through prosody. And they say that Aspies can have limited prosody. So prosody is like 5 different factors in your verbal communication that literally affect the meaning of a statement. And the factors are things like rhythm, pitch, intonation, I think speed, quality of voice, something called creaky voice. One of the interesting things is that folks that have like Amazon Alexa has prosody problems sometimes, and you can actually get the wrong meaning from what she says. Not necessarily her understanding the meaning of what you're asking. And there she says hello again. She just said she doesn't know that because I mentioned her name. Alexa's right next to me. So here's some interesting examples. Well, let me back up. The prosody issue being limited, I don't know exactly what that means for people interpreting the meaning of what you're saying, but I think it allows things to be interpreted in ways that aren't intended, maybe. Maybe there's less control over the meaning if you have limited prosody. An example might just be, take any phrase like, I like orange potatoes. That's a dumb phrase. Let's try another one. I like purple window curtains. So the prosody can change the meaning entirely. So that just means, like you could say, I like purple window curtains, and I like purple window curtains, and I like purple window curtains. And I like purple window curtains. Or I like purple window curtains. So I just went through all the different things. But they all have different meanings, right? So if you said, I like purple window curtains, that's sort of like coming from a frame of reference where somebody just told you that they're stupid or they're dumb. And I don't know if they are. But anyway, that's like, I like purple window curtains might mean, hey, I'm sticking up for myself. So there's this whole other meaning that just went along with it. Sticking up for myself. I like them. I like purple window curtains. So that almost conveys that you don't like other colors. And so whole other, thing of not related to window curtains necessarily. Whole other simultaneous piece of information just went through with that statement. And I like purple window curtains. That's sort of hard to imagine, but that could be purple curtains for windows, but not for other things. So really interesting. So multiply that times, 10,000 for however many phrases you say in a given week or month. And limited prosody, or, maybe wrong prosody or ambiguous prosody, can really goof up the meaning because of this stuff that gets said simultaneously. And it's embedded in the content based on how you're talking. So it's not this other stuff that goes along with, it's not body language, because that's a whole other ball of wax. It's not facial expression. That's a whole third ball of wax. It's actually the meaning that is embedded in how you say it. So, anyway, it's pretty amazing. So I think I'm bringing that up because that can affect, how well you can sell yourself or how well you can communicate in a way that makes people want to be around you. And for me, I'm always trying to be, a little bit unique and silly. So I'd be the kind of person going around saying, I like purple window curtains. And then people will be thinking I'm crazy because how many people buy purple window curtains? Well, maybe, I don't know. Now, I might actually be tempted to say something a little bit outrageous like purple window curtains that I like. Because I assume everybody knows that I'm a harmless, normal, friendly person. And I've always assumed that. And this will make sense in a minute. I assume that everybody knows where I'm coming from when I start in any interaction. So I might meet a new person and I just assume they know I'm a harmless, good person. And it turns out that's not always the case. And I think it's only the case when you're around people that are also like that have a frame of reference that other people are inherently nice and want to be friendly and should be considered to be friendly. But I've, through the years, found both on the west coast of the United States, on the east coast of the United States, where there's supposed to be different cultures. East Coast being people are more guarded and might be less likely to consider you as a, perfect, wonderful, nice, honest person, at the get-go. But I've always assumed that. So I've started my interactions with people or in groups as if they like me, they know me. And come to find out, that's jumping the gun in a way that can actually hurt your reputation and make people get a little bit standoffish maybe. I've actually had people totally not want to be around me and not want to talk to me. And I'll give a sort of intense example that probably everybody listening will say I should have known better, but I didn't because I assumed people knew me. At work, about 20 23 years ago. I can't believe that's so long ago. And it's on my mind because it was a big deal. Some coworker said he would like to go out to a bar or something with me, and this was because we were all traveling in a spot where everybody was on their own. They weren't living at home. We were all working out of New York. Most people, though, were living, closer to Virginia, and just on a weekday work in New York. Anyways, I said something like, I'd rather go to Stutz Bar or something like that. It sounded like Studs, but it wasn't. And he said, what's that? And I said, oh, that's a gay bar. Well, come to find out, I thought that was nothing, right? Come to find out, some coworkers said, you shouldn't have tried to pick up on Roger. And I was thinking, wait a minute, I had no such intent. I was just trying to, partly be silly and partly just have something to say. I think that's been my problem too, is oftentimes I don't know what to say. And that just came out, and I thought, if this guy Roger knew what I had inside my head when I said that, he would not have thought I was trying to pick up on him, because I wasn't. But the message went through, and I had no frickin' clue that was the message I sent. And I guess I would be alarmed if a coworker said that to me. I don't know. But anyway, it was so awkward that he never said anything, and I guess I wouldn't either if I was him. But the coworkers, all of them thought I was trying to pick up on Roger, or that I liked Roger. And first of all, I knew Roger was straight, so I wouldn't have even done that. And I figured Roger knew that I knew he was straight. So why would Roger even think I was trying to pick up on him? So anyways, that was one of these many lessons that I learned. Imagine, dozens of things like that where you find out later on, a month down the road, that everybody thinks you're crazy because you tried to do something, or you said something a certain way, or just that you said something. And that stuff, good Lord, when you find out it's spread and it's stuck with you, and then and Roger basically stopped talking to me for the rest of the time I worked there, which is really awkward. Trying to work in a small room with somebody that literally doesn't talk to you. And I think I mentioned in another episode that was not the only instance of that. There was multiple at different jobs where people close by just decided to stop talking to me. And it just frickin' hurts because you don't know why. I've probably said that before. And then in retrospect, I think I realize why. And then I start feeling bad. And then I start saying, oh, well, I guess that's why I'm alone. And then I start worrying about being alone more. So I'm not trying to say that I'm struggling and trying to solve this problem in an urgent way, but I am saying that it's not pleasant. It's not pleasant to be in this scenario. Now, one of the other things about this Secrets of Millionaire Selling book that I played the snippet from, it talks about, trying to do things for others so that if you can benefit others, then it will come back to you. And so I've tried this with probably less success. I think it works some of the time, but when it doesn't work, it really also hurts because it kind of makes you feel like even that concept doesn't work. The idea of doing something for others and hoping it comes back in a good way for you. And I do think it's related to Asperger's when things don't come back in a good way. And so I'll just give a real quick example. I really enjoy doing what I do for work. I've had, the good fortune to really help people who hire me for the stuff that I do, which is usually to try and help them get more business through sort of very complex online marketing, and I'm sort of successful at that, I think, because of the connections that I can draw that a lot of people think are not important, but then I can see the importance of certain connections between doing X online and the money that doing X will or won't bring to the business. A lot of businesses will put all kinds of money into stupid stuff because they think it's the right thing to do, like, writing blogs and Facebook posts. Anyways, how many times have you gone to a business and decided to subscribe to their blog? Not very often. Used to be good, not now. Used to be good for bringing business, but not now. Where I was headed with that. Where was I headed with that? Oh, I've had a couple recent things in the past couple of years that sort of freak me out, and one of them I think is due to just me not being able to isolate the right people to try and do things for, and the other is because I don't connect enough with people. So this will make a little more sense, I hope, in a second. In one case, I was able to hook up with somebody who had very good writing skills. And even though I was just dissing the concept of blogs a second ago, writing is still crucial for the kind of stuff that brings revenue to any kind of business. And the ability to write in certain ways is good. So I had met somebody at one of the few meetup groups that I go to when I have the energy and the confidence. Met somebody who, similar age, in his 50s, excellent writer. I couldn't believe it. Turns out he used to be a journalist, specifically for business journalism stuff, and really on target with the kind of work that I do. So I was able to bring him into some paid projects that I had, and at the same time he was starting a company, and he wanted me to sort of help out, and I did. I loved it. And part of that involved creating a website and handling email and stuff. Well, apparently that meant nothing to him. I got a nasty phone call or email from one of his other business partners that I hadn't met yet, but he was like, "How come the email doesn't work? You better fix it." And I'm thinking, wait a minute. First of all, I know that the problem is not anything to do with me, and second of all, how could you be all nasty when you're getting something as a donation towards the goal of starting what might be a really important business? And so I was enjoying the fact that I was part of what might be a nice business to be part of going forward. But that was sort of one strange one. And then the other is the same person. I don't think he had too much success with this entire business idea. One of the people that he brought in to join up with their skill sets was a person that had a really good accounting company growing, and he ended up pulling out entirely because he just saw some rigidness on the part of the guy who I'm sort of talking about in general, who was the good writer. Anyways, I stayed in touch with that writer. He called me 6 months ago, said, "Hey, he might have a job. I just need you to do X." And I said, "Well, we really can't do X in a good way that's going to be, respectable unless we spend 2 weeks figuring out how to do it right first. That's normal." And he says, No, I just need somebody to do it right now." And he got kind of belligerent. And then somehow we got disconnected, but he thought maybe I had hung up or something. I don't know what happened, but the call came back because it wasn't on a regular phone. It was on an internet chat app. And I started hearing everything he was saying, and I didn't know he wasn't talking to me. Anyway, he left his phone up, and he said, "Yeah, I was just talking to this friend, and he's very rigid. He won't do it the way we need, blah, blah, blah." So, again, he was dissing me, and I had put forth a fair amount of effort to try and help start up and contribute to his endeavor with this other company that he was trying to start. And it wasn't just building the website. It was giving him time and strategy and even bringing him revenue from other writing jobs that I brought him that allowed him to pay for some interns to work for him for the company. Anyway, I just thought it was sad. I put out all kinds of effort and basically got zero. Pretty much zero. Same thing happened where I did something much bigger, like a 3-month project for some very high-end people. It was actually two people important. And it was something that took a huge amount of effort just because of the nature of the job. It was a website for a magazine, a new magazine, and I sort of bartered for advertising on the magazine, on the online version of the magazine, because it was a print item. And I did that, and then pretty much minimal communication after that. And I don't know why, because I try to stay in touch, and I work in a shared space where these people are, and I've seen one of the people at Starbucks, and she won't even say hi. And the amount of effort that was put in and the amount of praise that came back about how good things looked right afterwards, and then just nothing. So anyway, I feel kind of used, because even though the advertising was there, I had also had in the barter that we would try to maybe get some kind of work from their side somehow that would, pay for this huge amount of effort that was put in over about a 3-month period. So it wasn't full-time 3 months, but it became like full-time for the last 3 weeks because they hadn't put any effort into the stuff they needed to. And then they had a deadline, and then I was stuck trying to do what's needed for them. Anyway, they just totally didn't give much value to what they were given. And it's frustrating because it was one of those things where I thought, hey, if I can do something good for folks, in this case do what I think was about $7,500 of work, probably more, for them, and I donate that, and then in term, advertising, and then I mentioned that the advertising brought no inquiries. Anyways, it's just frustrating. And where I'm headed with this is, number one is I've tried to do things for other people in this idea that things are going to come back at least halfway or more. Sometimes you hear these things like, whatever you put out, you'll get back 1,000-fold or whatever. It's not seeming to work. And then when I focus on this, when I think about this, I think, gosh, why am I also trying to do this thing that's supposed to work and it's not? I'm stuck, and then I get into this feeling of like, I'm stuck. I'm not getting any good stuff out of it. And by the way, a lot of this stuff is social. It's not just about earning money, but it's about, and this is how I've sort of gained a little bit of social connection, is just by getting people to appreciate the work I do and ask for more advice and value me. And I feel like, okay, Steve has, some importance. And I feel like all of a sudden these other things that I've tried to do gave me no importance as a result. So I feel like other people would probably get more importance out of what they did, and there's something strange about me. Well, I say that with a little bit of truth. I also listen to not just audiobooks, but I listen to podcasts about business. And just like the audiobooks, there's lots of podcasts out there that are advising people on how to be good at business. And it seems like one of the fundamental things there is also about how to be a human being who connects with people. And that's just part of doing business, is you've got to be able to get people on your side and realize you're constantly selling yourself. Maybe not in a aggressive or active way, but somehow just the way you interact has to be, good enough and respectable enough that people want to interact with you. And that's sort of maybe type of selling yourself. Well, one of the podcasts that I just heard, and this was like a week or two ago, was saying that you really have to be around people or you have to be in contact with people a lot for that to work, for you to have some influence and importance and whatever. And I'm just too frickin' scared of being around people a lot because I know that I've made, not enemies, but I've turned people off when I'm around them a lot because eventually I say something that makes them think I'm awkward. And a lot of that is partly because I don't have anything to say, so I think of things that I'm trying to assume will be funny and bring out a sense of delight, and I'm finding it doesn't always happen. So I avoid some situations where if I don't need to be around somebody to be all social and happy, I will avoid that. And I said also about needing to be happy. I think that's something that I feel like everybody else must be happy around people all the time. And I guess I'm more scared and nervous. So I avoid it. Well, guess what happens? Less contact, less chance to show good vibes, less chance for interaction. The result is, I think that some of these attempts that I've made to put out effort don't move forward in terms of the return effort. And part of it's probably an assumption on myself too. It's like, okay, if I put out this effort, then I'm going to assume that the receiving party is going to do the same. They're going to feel obliged to do the same. But I think that's probably not true. The receiving party needs to also have connection and conversation with you. I'm not putting myself out there to do that because I'm trying to protect my brain from being hurt from saying something that might be considered awkward, etc. So it's just all sort of confusing and sad on my part because the long-term result seems to be that I am alone and not communicating and having people to eat dinner with that are friends or go out to a movie with or go to an amusement park with, etc. So I kind of get into this, swirling drain of thoughts that take me downhill. And so as a result of that, I avoid being alone where I might start thinking about that. And I do that by either sleeping or trying to take my mind off stuff with, in my case, YouTube videos about controversial subjects. I find that works. Anyway, I think I've gone on long enough. I do want to mention that I'm hoping to do some interview episodes that I am still full of ideas to put into other episodes, a large part of which came by emails to aspiecast@gmail.com. A lot of good stuff, a lot of good pieces of information I want to share. But as I mentioned at the start, even just this one episode, I tried it, and this is the 4th attempt, and it's even more different now than it was last November. And it just takes a little while. And even just getting rid of the noise in the background and then writing up descriptions and all that stuff. And it turns out I've got a lot of typos and stuff in my descriptions that a listener found and sent me lots of corrections, which is totally appreciated. And I haven't even had the mental capacity or energy to go and fix them all, but that's pending. Anyways, thanks for listening, and do please feel free to visit bit.ly.com/aspiecast2 or bit.ly/aspiecast2, same thing. LY just happens to be the Libyan internet domain. This is not a site from Libya, by the way. It's just somebody's using that. But yeah, bit.ly.com/aspiecast2 goes to the Millionaire Selling Secrets. And for full disclosure, I probably get a couple of cents commission off of anybody that buys that. Oh, and by the way, the link seems to only go to the audiobook version, but if you search Amazon, there's a Kindle version, and I'm not sure, there might even be a hardcover or paperback version, but I couldn't find it. And for some reason, I couldn't find a link to one that had all the versions. So that's that. All right, thanks for listening, and I'll try to put out another episode as soon as possible, maybe sometime in 2021. And that was a joke. But definitely have some good stuff to do in next ones. So stay tuned. Thanks for listening. Thanks for persevering, being patient for the next one. Thank you very much. Bye-bye.